Good evening and welcome to Constituency Watch on Joy News, your election headquarters. Tonight we return to the Western region and to the Ivalujira constituency, one of the biggest constituencies in that region. Only one person, Kojo Ama of the CPP, has represented the constituency more than once in Parliament. But the incumbent MP Catherine Afeku is also looking forward to repeating Kojo Ama's feat in that constituency. How feasible would that be? Share your thoughts with us on that through our text short code 1760 or via WhatsApp 0544334722. Your comments are equally welcome on our social media platforms, facebook.com/joynews, or follow us on Twitter at joynewsOnTV. My name is Nia Krofi. Smartabe Constituency Watch and your election headquarters are brought to you through the kind support of Star Ghana. We're back after this. Welcome back to Constituency Watch here on Joy News, your election headquarters on Multi-TV, brought to you through the support of Star Ghana. Now, in 2008, the New Patriotic Party swept more than 50% of the total votes cast in the Ivalujira constituency in the Western region. That aside, the NPP has dominated the presidential election in that particular constituency. This December, the incumbent MP for the constituency, Catherine Ablema Afeku, is promising to recapture the seat for her party, as well as ensure that the party's flag bearer wins the presidential race in that constituency. But the NDC in the same constituency is sure to recapture the seat. But what does the electoral history of that constituency say? Let's take a look at the results from that constituency starting from 1992 with the parliamentary elections. Now, in 1992, Charles Henry Turpin of the NDC represented the constituency with 10,270 votes in that constituency. In 1996, the NDC failed to win the seat as it was taken over by Kojo Ama, who contested at the time on the ticket of the PCP. He polled 9,791 votes, representing 38.60%, to beat the NDC's James Akakobna, who polled 7,694 or 30.30% of the votes. In 2000, however, the NDC recaptured the seat through Edith Hazel, who won 6,598 votes or 42.80%, beating the then incumbent MP Kojo Ama, who this time managed 5,994 votes or 38.90%. But Kojo Ama, however, came back in 2004 on the ticket of the CPP, and he won the seat with 10,377 or 49.7% of the vote. Now, this time round, he also toppled the incumbent Edith Hazel, who also contested but polled 6,150 votes or 29.4%. Finally, in 2008, the NPP won the seat for the first time through Catherine Ablema Afeku, who won it with 11,641 votes or 57.7%, defeating the NPP's Peter Ade Kojo, who polled 6,224 or 30.8% of the votes. And now let's look at the presidential polls for that same constituency. In 1996, the then MPP candidate for the presidential race, John Kufuor, polled 8,904 votes or 51.2%, with then incumbent president Jerry John Rawlings managing 7,856 or 45.1% of the votes in the same Ivalujira constituency. Then in the first round of polls in 2000, the NPP's John Kufuor again won the constituency with 6,000 924 votes. That represented 46.6% of the votes. And then again, the NDC, who at that time had their candidate John Mills, he managed to poll 5,998% of the votes, total votes cast in the Ivalojura constituency. And in the second round, or in the runoff polls in 2000, the same year, John Kufuor extended his lead by polling 9,390 votes, or 66.30%. And John Mills, his margin in the runoff votes further reduced to 4,779 votes, or 33.70%. In 2004, the constituency again voted heavily for the New Patriotic Party, whose candidate John Kufuor at the time polled 12,957 votes, or 63.76%. And then the NDC's John Mills had to settle for 6,357 votes, that represented 31.28% of the votes cast. In 2008, the first round poll gave the NPP the lead, and their candidate Nana Akufo-Addo won 47,000 votes. That represented 75.20%. And then the NDC's John Mills, who contested against Nana Addo, managed 15,000 votes, or 24% of the polls in the Ivalojura constituency. And of course, in the runoff polls for 2008, the Nana Addo's margins reduced. He had 10,818 votes. That was 54.33% of the vote cast. And then John Mills of the NDC managed 9,094, or 45.67% of the total vote cast in the Ivalojura constituency. Okay, welcome back. This is still Constituency Watch here on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. And just gone by, I gave you the results from the Ivalojura constituency. But this year, Catherine Afeku, who is the incumbent, is back in the race and is promising to reclaim the seat. But the NDC has fielded a new candidate, Tenichie Kisi, whom the constituency chairman is sure will give the NDC a sweet victory. Shortly, we'll be speaking to Tenichie Kisi, and then the CPP's aspirant for that same constituency. His name is Akakwam. But in the studio with me is Peter Ankoma, the deputy editor of the Daily Dispatch newspaper. Good evening to you, Peter, and thanks for joining us.
Good evening, my brother.
Okay, so we saw the results from that same constituency, sure, obviously suggesting it's one of the swing constituencies, if I'm right. Does it fall within?
Well, it's more of a Nkrumah's constituency. But interestingly, it's a constituency that the NPP has always won the presidential elections, and
which is curious for me.
Very. I will explain why. You see, there are three political parties that can boast of or that do have some core support base: the CPP, the NDC, and the NPP. But none of these political parties can win the constituency by just with its core support base alone.
Okay.
They need what we call the kingmakers, or the floating voters, to be able to win the constituency. And over the years, the CPP and the NPP has been having some collaboration in the parliamentary.
Okay.
And so in return, the CPP supporters also vote for the NPP in the presidential elections.
Okay.
The other time I told you, in 1996, the CPP and the NPP had what they call the Great Alliance.
Exactly.
Where the former vice president, the late Kowaka, was the running mate to former President Kufuor in 1996. And so in some constituencies, they fielded a candidate who represented the two political parties. This was one of the constituencies that the CPP and the NPP fielded a candidate, or one candidate,
which was Kujama.
And so he won the constituency.
Okay.
But in the presidential, Kujama sort of campaigned for the NPP, and so the NPP won the presidential elections. By 2000 elections, this time the CPP contested alone, and the MPP contested alone, and so their vote was sort of divided, and the NDC sailed through.
Okay.
In 2004, for some arrangements, the MPP again didn't contest the constituency. They supported the CPP, Kojama, and so Kojama again won the seat in 2004.
Okay.
2008, they all contested, but something worked for Madam Catherine Afeku. You remember she was the spokesperson, government spokesperson on social services or so. And so because she was very vocal, the floating voters in this very constituency felt that she can better represent them in parliament to be able to, you know, speak their or facilitate development in the constituency. And by then, she also sort of mobilized the youth in the constituency in 2008, and that also worked for her. Okay. Her party core support base also helped her, and so in 2008, that helped her to win the seat for the MPP. Moving forward to 2012,
have things changed?
Not necessarily. All the political parties are contesting. The PNC is contesting, the CPP is contesting, the NDC is contesting, and the MPP is contesting. When you check the electoral history, you will find out that Madam Catherine Afeku is quite popular than even his own party. When you check the votes that she got, you will realize that
in 1998,
she contested 2008. Yeah. You realize that in 2008, she performed better than his party, the MPP, even so when you check in the parliamentary elections, the margin of victory between her and the NDC was 5,417 votes. In the presidential, the margin of victory between the Nanado and MPP and the late President Mills and NDC was 2,713. So there's something about her that the people also liked. You know, we've discussed the issue about what the floating voters or the kingmakers will want to see. And it looks like Madam Catherine Afeku do have those things. You know, they want to see somebody who is appealing, I mean the candidate, somebody who will better represent them in parliament, somebody who can speak their problems, who can voice their problems in parliament, somebody who can facilitate development. They want to see candidates who has message, strategic message, or who has proper strategy and is focused to be able to raise issues that can better address the issue of bread and butter.
So for this constituency then, can we say that much as it is an Nkrumah's constituency, but it's also being battled for by the NPP?
Over time, the NPP has worked very hard to increase their support base.
And is it because the MPP is speaking to the issues that concern them, or it's just because of the alliance that has been formed over the years in that constituency, and that's why the MPP seems to be performing better?
It's partly because of the alliance, and also because they were in government in 2000 and 2004, and so sort of worked to address the developmental challenges that the people faced. And so the people were like, oh, I mean, these are people we can work with, these are people we can sort of support, because they facilitated some developmental projects, especially in Azim and the surrounding communities. And Madam Catherine Afeku is somebody that do attend a lot of social functions within the constituency, and so the people also felt that, I mean, they felt comfortable and easy to work with her. She's quite popular, like I said, than even his own political party in the constituency. And it looks more likely that she's going to retain the seat for the MPP per our work than on the constituency.
But so how come the CPP, which is supposed to be traditionally affiliated with this constituency, how come they don't appear to be on the radar? Because even when, based on the conversations we've had, even behind the scenes with people in the region and all that, it appears it's a straight fight between Catherine Afeku now and the NDC's candidate, Tenichi Kisi. The CPP doesn't seem to be surfacing.
Yes, it's also because they've not been in government, but because when you check the electoral history, you will see that it's a constituency that they can boast of some core or some chunk of support base. For instance, in the presidential elections in 1996, because of the Great Alliance, the CPP didn't contest the 96 elections. But even in 2000 elections, where the CPP contested and the MPP contested, in the presidential elections, Mr. George Hagan of the CPP got 1,870 votes. MPP 6,924, NDC 5,998. In the parliamentary elections, Mr. Kujama 5,994, the MPP candidate Kaku Nokoy 2,702, the NDC 6,598. You see, and the NRP just 115 votes. You will find out that in the presidential elections over time, the CPP has sort of been doing well. That should tell you that they have some core support base in the constituency because of, you know, Nkrumah is from the region and many other factors. They feel like they should protect the heritage and the party, the CPP. But over
are they doing that? Because it
the
doesn't
CPP
appear
leadership
to be the case.
Seems not to be doing well in terms of trying to appeal to its core support base, and they are sort of now been moving into NDC and MPP. And MPP there are some more of the supporters seems to be moving to the MPP's end because of the fact that they were in government and sort of worked to address the challenges that the people faced. And so they felt that, oh, if our party is not doing that well, let's help this part because they are doing well. And it's also because of the alliance that they've been having with Mr. Kujama and the party. You know, Kujama contested in 1996, the MPP didn't contest. 2000 they contested and they lost to the NDC. 2004, the MPP didn't contest again. They supported Kujama. And so Kujama also campaigned for them, for the MPP. And so they feel much more closer to the MPP than the NDC and other political parties apart from the CPP.
But would the presence of Samia Nkrumah, for instance, with her being the CPP's chairperson now and being the daughter of Nkrumah and also having won a seat already in the Jomoro constituency, which is in the Western region, will it in any way play out or help the chances of the CPP's candidate in this particular elections?
This year's election? Not in the immediate thing that you see, being Nkrumah's daughter is good. Being a party chairman is good. But that is different from working to address, is to protect their core support base. Of course, when you check the electoral history, you will find out that they have some core support base, in the sense that even in the presidential elections, where they sort of, in 2000, for instance, where all manner of things sort of worked for the MPP in terms of change, wind of change, in terms of which candidate was better placed to win the elections, in terms of who will be able to vote out in terms of winning elections from the NDC. MPP was better placed than the CPP. Yet the CPP did well in the presidential election by getting 1,870. That was in terms of national elections in the constituency. You find out that this was one of the constituencies that the CPP did very well in the presidential election, even in 2000. And so that should tell you that they have some core support base in the constituency. But over time, they've not worked in protecting or keeping or preserving what their core support base wants, or meeting what their core support base wants. And for that matter, those support base, sort of because of the alliance they had with the MPP, sort of more of them moved into supporting the MPP. And because MPP was also in government and sort of did some work to meet the demands of the people, they felt comfortable there. And the candidate that the MPP presented in 2008 was somebody who was popular then. You know, Catherine was part of, in 2000 before 2000, it was part of, she was part of some youth groups, part of Keep Faith clubs, you know, organized, helped a lot of people. Was also, and has heard most of the time, trying to articulate and explain the views of the government on issues such as social interventions.
Yeah.
You see, so the people felt like, hey, she was somebody who could better explain their concerns in Parliament. And indeed, she facilitated a lot of things to in the development, and that sort of also worked on the keymakers. Okay,
so sorry to come, but I'm just wondering, should the CPP, for instance, have fielded Kojoama again?
Oh, they did.
Kojoama versus,
they did in 2008.
No, I'm talking of for this year. Should they have fielded again Kojoama versus Catherine Afeku? Would the situation have changed?
It would have been different, but you know, when you are in government too, what is helping Madam Catherine Afeku now is the fact that his party is not in government.
Okay.
You know, in 2008, she was able to do a lot of facilitation in terms of bringing development to the constituency because her party was in government and had access to, was a spokesperson, and so had access to some ministries, ministers and other things, and that sort of also helped her.
Okay.
Now her party is in opposition, and so her explanation has been that, oh, we are not in government now, help me and my party to be in government, and I will be able to better address your concerns and your developmental issues.
Okay.
You see, and that is where I think Kojoama, having been in government, having been in Parliament on the ticket of CPP before, and also worked in terms of also meeting some the developmental challenges of the people, would have worried
this year, because in 2008 he really didn't do that much. He had 2,314, whilst Catherine had 11,641.
Sure, and that's what I'm saying, that CPP over time have not been able to work to protect or keep their support base.
Okay, sure.
For several reasons. You know, people are aligned, are tempted to support political party for several reasons, and we've discussed that before.
Yeah.
The fact that they feel that the party was formed around them, and so they sort of owned the party.
Yeah.
And so some people are tempted, because they sort of own the party, they are aligned, they owe a duty to the party to vote for the party. There are others also that believe that for some reasons, like historical reasons, they must belong to Nkrumahist or social, ideological inclined party. And so those support base who are strictly socialists are sort of moving into the end of the NDC now. And so when you check the electoral history, you find out that the NDC over time has also been consolidating their core support base.
Okay.
You get it?
Yeah.
But CPP, the party itself, they've not done much in terms of organizing some communal forums to really explain why Nkrumah never dies, why Nkrumah's policy still exists. They've not been able to strategize ways and means to keep those core support base in the constituency. And so those core support base in a much more difficult position to win the seats now if they are not supported by any of the two main parties, the NDC or an NPP. In any case, the CPP they've not been able to win the constituency on their own. In 1996, they were supported by the NPP before they won the elections. In 2000, when the NPP contested, they lost it. In 2004, when the NPP decided to support them again by not contesting the constituency in 2004, and so that also helped them.
So is it a foregone conclusion that this year, because this year the NPP is still contesting the seat anyway, and the CPP is contesting, so is it safe to assume or conclude that then probably the CPP won't do much of a magic this time around? Because they are going on their own now.
They are going on their own now.
And
their candidate is new.
Probably,
their candidate
is a new candidate this time
around. Okay, I mean, the people known in the constituency though. But his problem is that they've lost their core support base to the two main political parties. even though there are some die-hard core support base of CPP in the constituency, but those core support base or those people are not enough to battle the two main parties with the floating voters. And you see, the Madam Catherine Afeku's strength was the fact that she was in government and was heard most of the times on radio, on national platforms, trying to articulate how to address national issues, and she actually worked to meet certain demands of the people in the constituency. But we believe that she still have
why is she disadvantaged?
Because his party is not in government. She's not been able to sustain the developmental projects that she even started in the last elections. And those things...
So will the voters be looking at issues this time round?
Yeah, the kingmakers, of course, they look at Issues. And so I think Madam Catherine will have to strategize well to get a better reasons to them, or will have to get a very good reason to explain to them why she will not be, or she has not been able to keep the pace in terms of meeting the developmental projects or that she herself even initiated in the constituency in 2008. And again, the CPP, because, like I said, they've not been able to consolidate their core support base, they might get some floating voters or the kingmakers support. But those supports or those supporters who decide to vote for the CPP candidate because probably he's addressing the bread and butter issues, or he's raising concerns or issues that sort of meet their demands, will not be enough to win the seat for them. The NDC in this constituency sort of also doing well in meeting the demands of the voters. But their problem is that their core support base in terms of their core support base, when you compare that to the MPP, so it's not also that much to win more of the floating voters now before they can win the seats. There are some few weeks to the elections. The two main parties will have to be focused. The slightest slip could affect any of them, but for us, we believe that Madam Catherine Afeku has an edge in this very constituency.
Unfortunately, we are running out of time, and my producers have actually been trying to get through to both the NDC and the NDC and the CPP's candidates who were billed to speak to on the show, but they haven't been able to make contact with them yet. The CPP's candidates is not picking his. We're not getting through to him on his phone yet. The NDC's candidate phone is not going through at all. So that's how come we haven't been able to speak to them. But before I run out of the studio, some of your messages that have come through, let me run through them quickly. Then this one from James Amuzu says, Smart, the Evaluagira seat is a no-go area for either the CPP or NDC because Madam Catherine Afeku will win the seat hands down and MPP will win in the constituency than never before. This one says, I want to appeal to all NDC aspirants to go out there and campaign vigorously for victory. That's from Emmanuel. This one says, the NDC is making a lot of noise in this country. They should come out boldly and tell us what they will do for Ghanaians. So what probably, I'm sure in the Evaluagira constituency, probably the NDC candidate is actually telling the people what he intends to do for them. So we'll see the results in December. Like Peter Ankuma rightly put it, Catherine connects very well with the youth of Evaluagira. She frequently visits her constituents and attends almost every social function. That is the kind of MP they need, and I believe she was again sending that message. All right, this one, Josh is sending his condolence to the Malcolm victims. This one, my party MPP will win the seat this time round. That's from Daniel. I pray for a peaceful, free, fair, and transparent elections. You didn't add your name. Maputo will be the last message. He says, NDC will win the constituency come December. Simply, that's how he puts it. But Peter, I have to thank you a lot for coming to the studio, but the predictions out there seem to be going both ways. So to me, I think it is the core supporters for both who are saying these. Sure. Am I right in concluding that way?
Sure. But it could be people who are also guessing. But the point is that another thing that is also working against the CPP in this constituency is that, you know, this time there's a PNC candidate who is contesting, Mr. Kobina, and he is sort of also taking some small support base from the CPP's
I think there's a PPP candidate as well.
Well, what we have is 4.
Okay.
PNC, CPP,
and then NDC, MPP. Okay.
NDC. And so that PNC candidate, of course, is also taking some support base
from the CPP.
And that's sort of also is something that is not also working well for the Nkrumah's party in the constituency.
Okay. All right. We'll have to wrap up now to make way for the nightly news. But many thanks to my guest in the studio, Peter Nkrumah, the deputy editor of the Daily Dispatch newspaper, and also to my entire production team. I say a big thank you to them. My name is Nia Kofi Smatabe. We'll come back your way again tomorrow.